I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the host of Inside the WDF podcast, Andrew Sinclair. Thanks very much for joining us, Andrew. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you, mate. It's a pleasure to be back on.
It's nice to have you on, and we last had you on the show on finals day of the BDO World Championship. Feels like a long time ago now, back in January at the O2, and there were rumours flying around that it would be the last BDO World Championship, and here we are in early September and those rumours have come true. I mean, when did you start to get the idea that Wayne Warren's win that night would be the last ever in the BDO World Championship?
I think there was a strong bit of me that sort of knew, the moment the double went in, there was a feeling that this is probably going to be the last one. But as someone who's followed the organisation for sort of 13 years, almost my entire darting fandom really, there was always this rose-tinted spectacle view that maybe things aren't as bad as you're led to believe, and there's always hope that it'll get better and it'll improve and they'll be back next year and they survived crises before and all that sort of thing. But I think once we went into the lockdown, I think it became very, very obvious that the end was nigh, and then the battle came up for the BICC and who was going to run the county game. And I think it was weird because realistically the BDO have always had problems with the televised events and things like that, but the county side, there's never really been an issue. That's always run fairly smoothly. But when you saw people en masse just going to the UKDA and looking for something else, it became immediately apparent that, too many bridges have been burned, too many relationships have gone sour, and, we've come to the end.
And it has been the county side of things that has really dominated the BDO over the last few months. Obviously, with no events going on, it's been who's going to take over the county side of things. And we've seen this week it is the UKDA. They are taking control. I mean, when you first heard about them and their plans, a new company that was coming in, all their ideas and ambitions, what was your initial reaction?
I mean, my main fear, really, my first reaction was fear that we'd end up with a split between, be it, the BDO and the UKDA, or the BDO and the Tri-Nations, because initially it was just the BDO and the Tri-Nations, and I was worried that it'd be a split between those two, and then you can't have an efficient county system split between two bodies where half the country are with one and half are with the other. But when the UKDA released their final proposals, I was very, very impressed. I thought it looked incredibly professional, and really they were the only ones who'd got a good grasp of social media, and ultimately that's going to make the difference, because in order for these counties to be sustainable, they need to find means of getting themselves revenue, and being active on social media is key to that. Providing people with updates and all that sort of thing is important now. People have got used to having instant access to results and tables and all that sort of thing, and they were the only ones who seemed to have understood that and grasped it. And I think throughout the whole thing they've conducted themselves very professionally, been very organised, and the other ones, they've either been very quiet or it's been lots of backbiting at each other, that this one said this, or if you stay with this one you're signing up to this, and these ones are unprofessional and the BDO's this. It got a bit tiresome in the end of just the backbiting and stuff, but I thought the UKDA were super professional from the start. When I spoke to Colin Savage back in June, I was very, very impressed with everything they'd got, and it looks like the county game's moving in a positive direction under their leadership.
Absolutely, and we've seen the last couple of weeks, maybe more so in the last week, that they've built some real momentum. The counties have been racking up, and I think they're around 40 before obviously the start of this week, when the BDO announced that they were saying all their counties are going to go to the UKDA as well. But when did you start to feel like they were going to take over and it was going to be the UKDA that was going to take everything forward?
I think the moment for me was when Lancashire announced that they had joined the UKDA, or the UKDA announced that Lancashire had joined them, because it was widely assumed that Lancashire would go with the Tri-Nations, because Tommy Thompson, who, head of England darts and runs the Tri-Nations, is, Lancashire through and through, and they were his county. So my assumption, I think a lot of other people assumed, that they would go with him. And then when it came out that they joined the UKDA, it was like, right, if one of the biggest counties in the country, and one who seemed a dead cert to go the other way, has actually joined the UKDA, if they join, that sends out a big message to a lot of the other counties who haven't voted yet, who'll think, well, if a Premier Division team is going, then there's obviously benefit for us as a lower division team to look at moving as well.
Definitely, and when we first met at the O2 in January, your brilliant show that you host was still called Inside the BDO. Of course, now it's known as Inside the WDF. You had the rebrand, and how hard was that transition? Because I remember speaking to you at the O2 and hearing about your love for the BDO, and that is what got you into darts.
It was hard, but I think I kind of had to realise that I either packed it in or I carried on and really adapted to what was obviously coming, that the WDF were going to be running the World Championship and World Master style events, and the BDO was going to be relegated to counties and potentially, the British Open and the British Classic. So, it was a hard decision, but it was one that I had to make, and I'm glad that I have, because the rebrand's gone well, and, I certainly am confident that the darts is moving in a good direction.
Yeah, there's been some great content from you over the last few months I've enjoyed listening to. I know a lot of our listeners have enjoyed listening to as well, but what's it been like changing that focus on your content now away from the BDO and more on the matters with the WDF?
I mean, ultimately, it's still the same content, really, because you're interviewing the same players who are fundamentally playing on the same tour. But obviously, the wrinkle to that has been there's been no darts. And the darts situation is even worse on the amateur side, because the travelling you can't do, and the financial side just isn't there to support the initiatives the PDC have got with the home tour and being able to house 128 people in a bubble for a week to run 5 events. I think that's brilliant, but ultimately money has always been the undoing of the BDO or the WDF, and they can't do that. So we've had 6 months of absolutely no ranking events, and it's very hard to see anything getting the go-ahead before the end of the year. So a lot of conversations start off, how's the lockdown been, and what are your plans now? Because you've not been able to really play any competitive darts for a very long time. So it's been strange, but certainly I think a lot of players are just keen to get playing and get travelling again. So hopefully we'll have something soon. But, went for the Golden Arrows thing as well, which, came sort of an idea from you, really. And it's been brilliant to actually just talk people about, darts from years gone by. And it's kept me busy, but also it's kind of given me content when really interviewing players is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, that's what I was going to come on to next. Your Golden Arrow series up to 17 episodes now. You put out one with Steve Beaton earlier this week, and I know you've spoke to a wide range of players that we will be very familiar with, some that we maybe won't remember that much from the past, but as I say, a lot of different players that you've spoke to. Who have you most enjoyed getting to chat to so far?
I mean, obviously Steve Beaton is a hero of mine, so that one was personally I enjoy that one a lot. But I think in terms of kind of the stories that I was able to hear, I think it's some of the ones that maybe you don't necessarily expect. So started off with Tony David, who obviously had an incredible journey to even be playing darts in the first place at the level he was, to talk through his World Championship win and what it meant, but then also his life after that, where came close to dying on a couple of occasions, and that was just incredible. Talking to Richie Burnett, obviously, about the drug ban and the mental health struggles he's had was very, very eye-opening. But it was also just really interesting talking to someone like Dita Hedman about her experiences of racism in the sport, and also her being quite upfront about struggling with the menopause when she was playing in the World Championship final, or talking to someone like Wayne Weaning about what the split meant for players in Australia, who were sort of, if they went and joined the WDC, now the PDC, they were stuck because they were so much more isolated than even players like Nicky Vrachko and others in America. So I think really it's the variety I think I've enjoyed more than anything else, is hearing from a wide range of people and hearing those stories from years gone by. But probably personal highlights would probably be sort of, Dita Hedman, Richie Burnett, Tony David, Steve Beaton, but there's 3 more to go, and then hopefully we'll probably come to the end of the run for now, at least, anyway.
And let's get on to the WDF then. As far as they're concerned, start of this year, just after the BDO World Championship, they outlined some big plans that they were looking to bring in, which have obviously been put back due to the virus that's come out, and the tour's still on hold at the moment. Realistically, what timeline do you see for the WDF going forward in these big events when they're hoping to get them on?
I think it's very challenging. I mean, I know they've already said that the World Masters won't go ahead this year, and really, it's hard to see how they could get a World Championship to go ahead when their calendar is obviously going to run January to December, same as the PDC. So it's going to be very hard to host a World Championship when you've only had 3 months of a ranked season. And you bear in mind there's a fairly slow start on that side anyway, with the BDO World Championship and so on. I don't know whether they then look at maybe rolling points over that were won in 2019 for a World Championship. I think it's going to be very hard to put one on, but I know they want to. But obviously, the practicalities and obviously the money and the TV and stuff, forgetting the ranking business, I think it's going to be very, very challenging. And I think realistically, it's got to be next year is going to be a reset, and you just go from there. How that affects the rankings, I don't really know. But I think 2021 has really got to be the sort of a fresh start for them, and they go from there. But you think the start of next year, I was talking to John Scott yesterday about this. I mean, the events that are traditionally earlier in the year are the Dutch Open and the events in Romania. Well, I don't understand how you could have 6,000 people in a hall in Assen trying to play the biggest competition of the year in February of next year. At the moment, I just don't think that's practical in any way. So even if they do start again next year, going to start from scratch maybe in January, I think it's going to take quite a long while for things to get up to speed and get back to normal. So my anticipation would be probably the end of 2021 would be when we'd see the first of those majors, but a lot could change between now and then.
Well, fingers crossed for that. And lastly, before we let you go, we've got to give a mention to the Bang Average League as well. Some top quality darts that has been able to go on over the last few months. Yourself and us have been co-hosting these events, and now into our third season being run by the guys at Darts Atlas this season as well. Any highlights you can pick out so far?
Well, for me, hitting a 180 was a miracle, I think. So that was fun. But I think really it's just been sort of running it. It's been quite nice, and it's kind of given, certainly me, it's given me something to do and keep an eye out for. And I think we've just offered something to players as well. So, you know, not necessarily the players who would usually be playing, you know, in online competitions, but just guys who are looking for, you know, a bit of fun, a few fun games, and meet a few new friends as well. So I think it's been nice seeing people come together, and, you know, beating one of my colleagues twice was a particular highlight for me.
Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to seeing how this season goes. And Andrew, always nice to have a catch up with you. Keep up the great work that you're doing with Inside the WDF. Looking forward to keeping up the great stuff that we're doing with the Bang Average League as well.
Very much so, mate. Thank you for having me on again.